What up, Bulls Nation? We've got a live CHGO Bulls podcast coming up right now. On today's show, after we wrapped yesterday, we finally got that Shams bomb. Peyton Watson is heading to the Bulls' Central Division foe, the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll break down that trade. Plus, Bleacher Report just dropped a will every of 30 teams be better or worse this season than they were last season? Surprise! This Bleacher Report NBA writer chose better for the Bulls. Can they get better than 31 wins this season? We'll talk about that, and we will be joined by our pal, diehard Bulls fan, Trey Kerby. That's all ahead next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls podcast. Coming to you live from our Xfinity Loft here in the West Loop of downtown Chicago. Thanks for joining us. Hit that like button whether you're catching us live or seeing the replay. The like button's free either way. I'm Peck Bulls _Peck. My guy, Will the Goat Gottlieb. Will _ Gottlieb. Read his stuff, allchgo.com. Become a diehard so you can read his stuff that is for diehards only. And back with us. He was with us on Monday. He's had a busy week with the Crosstown Classic. He's back. King Joey C. What up, Joey?
Happy Thursday, gentlemen.
Thursday.
What?
How are you doing after that just crazy whirlwind of a 3-game series? Cubs Sox. Cubs got the 2 wins. Couldn't complete the sweep yesterday, though.
Yeah, we handled it as a topic today on CHGO Cubs of I'm walking away with it feeling probably more in the middle than excited. I will say a 3-3 series with Crosstown Classic is officially back.
Right.
Which is great news.
That is great news.
And I have a lot of respect for the White Sox, but the White Sox have been 19 and now 30 against teams above 500. So you want to see if you can maybe take a little bit more business at home, if you will.
And if you're going to win a series 2-1, it always kind of feels like a bit of a letdown if you take the first 2 and then don't
complete the sweep.
100%.
Yeah. So I feel pretty good about it, but I mean, emotionally, energy-wise, for this company and for this city,
oh, dude,
smashing success.
Huge.
Total, complete success.
I can't remember the last time there was a exciting Crosstown series. Where
in 21, before they traded the Cubby core, both teams were pretty good.
Yeah.
2020 doesn't count because fans weren't in the stands, and you have to go all the way back to 2008 before both teams made the playoffs in the same season.
Crazy.
So you're not wrong. Few and far in between.
2008.
But here we are. Let's go.
What a time.
Cubs, Sox. Would love to see both of them make a playoff run.
How about a World Series? 2 Chicago teams in the World Series.
Nope.
Too crazy? I mean, even just listening and seeing Cubs and Sox fans talking to each other in y'all's, combined watch-along chat on Tuesday and Wednesday night, Joe, or Monday and Tuesday night. Yikes. Like I've always known, the Cubs Sox, some fans have true vitriol hatred for one another. I have never felt that way. I'm just like, hey, man, yeah, I'm a Cubs fan. I don't hate the Sox. I don't hate their fans. It's crazy how some people get.
I mean, it's been very entertaining because both teams are entertaining, but like the Cubs versus Sox thing, I think is perhaps I know we love our deep dish and we love all of our Chicagoan colloquialisms and stuff. That is probably at our worst. Our most debased is probably Cubs versus Sox. I absolutely hate it. I think it's a farce. I think it's been passed down to us from generations. But you know what else they passed down from generations before? Smoking on airplanes.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to take everything from our
got
aunts
rid of
and
that.
uncles
and
our parents for the rest of our lives. And I can't help but feel like if that did happen, whatever team would win would want to be in the streets celebrating with their own fans.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'd want to see is the losing team get in the mix somehow. And, I mean, can't we all just tip over cars during the Bulls dynasty like human beings together in one unity instead of going after each other?
Speaking of Daddy Fish in the chat saying Chicago would blow up if that Crosstown World Series happened, yeah. Also, welcome back, Yuna, back from Japan. Hopefully you had a lovely trip. That's right.
Jealous.
Back to watching live. Let us know if you saw any Bulls fans or Bulls gear over there in Japan. I know that Bulls fans international. All right, so lots to get to today. Let's dive in. First thing, I think this was around 7 or 7:30 Central Time last night, so a few hours after we had concluded our show. And we had talked about it on yesterday's show, but then we finally got the Shams bomb we've been waiting for. Cleveland, Denver, and the Clippers have agreed on trading on a trade, sending Peyton Watson to the Cavs, Max Strus to L.A., and an unprotected 2031 Cavs first-round pick, a 2032 Kings second-rounder to the Nuggets. Peyton Watson will sign a new 4-year, $88 million deal to join the Cavs, plus a player option and a trade kicker. Shams providing some further context. As part of the deal, the Cavs are sending Trey Mann, 27 second-rounder from the Clippers, and cash to the Wizards for Cam Whitmore. The Wizards are also sending Julian Reese to the Nuggets, who will waive Reese off of his two-way deal. Mann fills a positional need as the Wizards have searched for an additional guard in recent weeks, while the Cavs gain a smaller salary in Whitmore to create optionality under that first apron. Goat, your reaction to seeing the details of this trade come through last night?
We talked about it yesterday. I think I mentioned I thought that this was going to be the way it went down with him going to Cleveland and then some other team being involved. And what was interesting is that the Clippers were one of the other suitors for Peyton Watson. So instead of going after him, they settle for being the third party that takes on Max Strus. And we talked about it from the Bulls' perspective through both sides of that. Like, could they have gone after Peyton Watson and put the screws to Denver, who is clearly not going to pay him?
Right.
And also, could they be the team that takes Max Strus off of the Cavs' hands so that they could open up the space to go after a Peyton Watson? You know, I don't think this is a bad deal for anyone. I think the Nuggets are getting kind of lambasted about this, and I get why. They are a contending team. They have a top 2 player in the world right now, maybe top 3 at worst, and they are a title contender, but they just got a lot worse and got rid of one of their core pieces for nothing in terms of players that are going to help them. So I get why, but given their constraints, and these are self-imposed constraints, they could just pay the money, which I think they probably should have done. But given their constraints of being a team that wants to get underneath the second apron and prevent this gigantic repeater tax bill, I think they did pretty well. I would expect now that they go and turn around and move either their own 2031 first-round pick or the pick that they acquired in 2031 from the Cavs in this deal to try to find a way to either clear out some money and or add some talent. But I do think the Nuggets made out fine. And then the Cavs, they were kind of backed up against the wall. They didn't really have a lot of ways to improve their team, get younger, get more athletic, get more physical, add some dynamism on the wing. And that's a position they've been seeking and searching for forever. They found a way to do it. They had to get creative, and then that allowed them to bring back James Harden. I will say they are over the second apron right now. And over the first apron.
Yeah.
Just by a hair,
yeah,
based on re-signing Harden today, which happened as a result of this deal coming through.
That domino was waiting on the Watson deal.
Exactly. Basically, whatever space was going to be left is what he was going to get. Now, he got a little bit more, and so they're going to have to do a follow-up move to clear out some more space. My guess is that it will be a wave and stretch of Cam Whitmore, but maybe that's an area where the Bulls could eventually get involved, is taking Whitmore into their room exception as a swing, a flyer on a young player with upside, and doing the Cavs a favor by taking on some money that they can't afford right now. So that's just kind of my overarching thoughts. I figured we could lean into it from the Bulls' perspective a little bit today, but I think it made sense. And it's just another example of teams being so afraid of spending that they're willing to do something that I think a lot of people think was not going to happen this summer, which is trade deep future first-round picks. And, you know, to bring it to the Bulls, like, you watch what all these other teams are doing. Either they're contending and they're giving up these picks, or they're rebuilding and they're acquiring them. And the Bulls are just in this position where they are rebuilding without any picks. And it's a tough spot to be in. They have to find a way to get something to add to their trove to build forward with. Otherwise, they're going to be I don't want to say they're going to be in trouble, but the pressure to hit on every single pick, as we know, as we've seen the last couple of years, is that much greater because you don't have any latitude to miss.
For sure. And that's why you see teams, especially teams that are going after it and trying to contend or see themselves as teams in championship windows, having to get really creative to add talent to their rosters in any way they can, while also trying to get down, if they are above the second apron, just an absolute nightmare, or even trying to get from above the first apron to beneath the first apron. And I think this is honestly a pretty solid move for all the teams involved. They all get something out of this. that makes sense. I do know, some Nuggets fans have a mixed bag of opinions on this. And speaking of championship window, people are wondering, since the Nuggets won it all in 23, is that window just slowly closing and closing? Joker just played an exhibition game against Wemby in the France-Serbia FIBA friendly, and there were some great highlights of that making their way around NBA Twitter earlier today. He was asked about the Peyton Watson trade. He was like, I'm just focusing on this right now. That, fresh NBA season hasn't started yet. He commended Peyton Watson, said, I'm glad for him, got the contract he was hoping for, the money he was hoping for. But when you flip that towards the East and the teams that the Bulls have to deal with more regularly, I saw a bunch of people say, anytime some big star player moves teams, or even like a big role player goes and compliments an already really good team, everybody always have those photoshopped images of like, who's stopping this, right? Who's stopping this five? And now it is with the Watson trade and him arriving. You got, and then Harden's contract renewed. James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Watson, Mobley, and Allen. Who's stopping that? And look, they went to the conference finals this past year. They might get back, but I saw somebody had just taken like red marker drawn on their phone on a screenshot on top of that with just like a bunch of red arrows pointing at James Harden. That's how I feel still as a Bulls/NBA fan. Cool, you made the big bold move. You got Peyton Watson. You moved off of Max Strus. All thumbs up, all success. Are you still counting on James Harden to win you a Game 5 or a Game 7? Because if so, I don't think the Cavs have changed at all.
I think they're hoping that it will be Donovan Mitchell that carries them and that James Harden can just help them get there because, that's what history tells us about the Cavs. I think they're a better team, but they've sacrificed depth. I think they really needed somebody like Watson, so it makes sense. And for what they gave up, he's probably the best player they could get. Certainly that's that age. So I think he really helps them, and he can provide some secondary shot creation if his stretch during the middle of the winter is any indication. And he's going to be a good defender. He's going to be a good rim protector. He's versatile. He can space the floor a little bit. He's a good player. I think he'll really help them. But it's just a matter of how much. But there's a difference between making James Harden your number one guy, making $50-60 million a year, and making him your secondary ball handler, making $30 million a year. For however old he is, he's still an all-time great player, and I think he can help teams. Just history tells you he's not going to be able to be the one that drags you over the top by himself. So for the Cavs, it's hopefully Donovan can be that guy, and hopefully Mobley takes a step forward, and now Harden's kind of your third option. But that just kind of is the bed that they made for themselves when they traded Darius Garland.
And I think, as people talk about how competitive the East is going to be this upcoming season, and teams that maybe like a team like the Pacers that took a gap year but are expected to come back and be stronger with Halliburton back in there after his injury recovery, and other team like the Wizards, are they going to be good if AD is healthy, if they find a way to make Trey Young a player who can help them win more than he is a reason why they lose? Like, there's a lot of teams in the East that people are saying are going to be in that mix, and so if you are at the upper echelon of that, it's why some people have felt underwhelmed by what the Knicks have done as the reigning champions this offseason. It's if you're the reigning champions and you say, well, what do you have to do? Not much. Just keep doing what you're doing. They lose Mitchell Robinson, which is a big-time hit, very important piece to their championship team, and didn't do a whole lot of much else. And so, sure, I'll commend the Cavs for getting this done because I do think Peyton Watson in his own way can be a real difference maker on a very good team. It's just you got to do something instead of nothing, and this is the something that they've done. Does it alter the power landscape in the Eastern Conference? I would say not by much.
I do want to bring up one more point before we go to break, which is that the Nuggets are still over the second apron by $2 million. They have to shed more money. It's going to be way easier to do that now. They can move on from Zeke Naji. They can move on from Julian Strother. Deron Holmes, I think, could be a candidate. They're going to do something, and maybe it's Christian Brown. Maybe they are able to find an upgrade for him to pay somebody a little bit more, but also get off of some of these other contracts. The Zeke Naji contract is $7.5 million, $7.46 million. That fits into the room exception. I would absolutely be calling up Denver right now and saying, we will take on Naji, his contract for this year, next year. We will take on Strother. That's $11 million off your payroll, gets you under the second apron. You give us a pick, and we'll give you your choice of Jalen Smith, of Isaac Okoro, any of these veteran players that can really help the Nuggets on pretty manageable deals and then maybe a re-sign for longer term while taking some bad money. And I would give them back a couple of second-round picks with it if it got you one of these super valuable 2030s picks. They'd probably be looking to catch a bigger fish with one of those, but that's the kind of call I'd be making now if I'm Bryson Graham.
And they do have an incoming first-round pick now because of this Peyton Watson trade. So when you wonder whether or not Denver's going to be willing to part with first-round draft capital if they do want to make another move or two to get under that apron and save themselves a ton of money, then maybe that's something that they're willing to consider because they're desperately trying to help their currently awful financial situation.
Yeah, or maybe it's at the deadline and it's like those three guys plus Christian Brown, those two guys plus Christian Brown for Norman Powell, and you give them a player that can really help them. You take off a ton of money. But for me, the Bulls are so, like, everybody is talking about flexibility and how important that is. It's like you've got Caleb Wilson, who is your core piece on a rookie scale deal. Nothing really matters for the next 4 years as far as what you can put on your cap sheet, because what really matters is what happens after he signs his extension in whatever year that will be. I'm fine with taking on money until then, especially if it helps you build out a cheaper, more valuable roster when Caleb is really ready to go. So I would not be so concerned about the flexibility thing. I think that was really what Arturas wanted to do to set the team on the right track. And Bryson just took over and kind of went with it. He's trying to evaluate how things go, but that's the way I would look at it, is you have this runway now where you can afford to get a little expensive because the core piece that you're building around is so cheap.
Indeed. We will knock out our first ad break right there. We'll come back on the other side and dive into that big question. Are the Bulls going to be better or worse this season than they were last season? That's ahead. The like button is free. Hit it, and we'll talk to you in 120 seconds. CHGO Bulls is brought to you by Sunnyside Dispensary, your home for judgment-free shopping. Sunnyside is here to elevate your baseball season right on into football season. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a spot for you, as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. They also offer a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from. Plus, they offer easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Take advantage of the Stash Pass Summer, Sunnyside's reward program that lets you earn rewards simply by visiting and making qualifying quality purchases. After every 4 visits, you'll unlock a reward on that 5th trip and advance to the next tier with bigger rewards available as you progress throughout the summer. Live now through Labor Day, so you still got several weeks to take advantage of this great Sunnyside rewards. Head to their website for only the best under the sun, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases with promo code HICHGO at checkout. Sunnyside Dispensary, only the best under the sun, only for 21 and over and Illinois Med card holders.
It's been a long time, Matt, since Dave has been gone. It feels like, it's been 2 weeks.
Days.
It feels like
hours.
It's been...
Who is Big Dave?
Who is Big Dave?
Started to forget the sound of his voice.
Feels like it's been a long time. It has been a long time. But it has not been 5 years. But I can tell you what happens in 5 years. Xfinity's 5-year price guarantee. You could have reliable Wi-Fi, and you could keep it the same price for not 3, not 4, but 5 whole years with Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes your home work smoothly, swimmingly even. It finds and fixes problems like a super intelligent Wi-Fi with a 6th sense. Lets you stream the game even when the whole family is online. All your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. And the best part, no annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment included. A lot can change in 5 years. It feels like I haven't seen Dave in that long. And even a hater of Dave, I really do miss him. But you can unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that.
CHGO Bulls rolls along here on Thursday afternoon. Thanks for being with us, Bulls Nation. Peck, Goat, our guy Joey C on the controls. Hit the like button if you didn't do it during the ad break. Next on deck is a Bleacher Report article from Greg Schwartz asking if every NBA team will be better or worse. With that, why don't we get to our big takeaway? The big takeaway is presented by our friends at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. In case you missed this, it was a Bleacher Nation column yesterday, day before yesterday. Simple question. Will every NBA team be better or worse next season? And again, by Bleacher Report NBA writer Greg Schwartz. Listed alphabetically, so you didn't have to scroll far if you're lazy like me. The Chicago Bulls, as Greg noted, with a 31-51 record last season. Notable additions, Caleb Wilson and Dalen Swain via the draft, Norman Powell via free agency, and Claxton via the trade. Notable subtractions, if you want to call them notable subtractions, Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, among some others. Greg Schwartz predicted that the Bulls will be better, GOAT, this season than last, and here was his reasoning. Following a confusing end last season where the Bulls accumulated roughly half of the league's guards, the bigger picture is beginning to take shape. Simons and Sexton are gone, although Powell is an upgrade over both, who made the 2026 All-Star team with the Heat. Using cap space to sign him and trade for Claxton, filled 2 starting positions and helped the team's offense and defense. Claxton is a huge defensive upgrade over Nikola Vucevic. Wilson should be a joy to watch all season and has all-star potential. Brace yourselves. If he and Josh Giddey can develop chemistry, the Bulls could be a 40-plus. That's right, I said FORTY, 40-plus win team in the East. Win. That's right, Dave. Bulls win. I don't know if you're going to say that 40 times next season, but we'll have some in there. We'll have some Bulls wins in there. 40-plus. Goat, what do you make of this analysis from Mr. Schwartz here? And do you agree, let's start with this, that Powell, significant upgrade over some of the other guards that departed, and that Claxton is a huge upgrade, at least defensively, over Vooch?
I guess I don't know how you can definitively say they're going to win 10 more games than they won last year when the coach is different, the roster is different, the goals are different, the rest of the league is operating differently. It just feels like that's such a stretch to me. And I do think that there is a possibility. We've been doing the record thing. We've gone through game by game.
Yeah.
I think, we're relatively low on the Bulls in general. Maybe there are some people that think they're going to win 12 games or something. I think it's probably going to be mid to high 20s. I think there's a real world where they are better than that, where Modest takes a step forward, where Josh Giddey takes a step forward, Norman Powell really contributes, Claxton bounces back to, the form that he was in the last time he was really good, 22, 23, 24. And then, you get something real out of Caleb. There's a world where that happens, but I think just so much has to go right in order for them to get there. Yeah. And then on top of that, I do think the downside is a little bit higher than people are willing to accept right now. And it starts on the defensive side for me. You've got Giddey, you've got Powell, you've got Modest, Caleb, and Claxton. Who is guarding anyone in that starting lineup? I mean, I think you've got capable defenders.
The question was going to be more specific, but fair.
I think you've got capable defenders. I think Claxton can help take care of the rim a little bit. I think Caleb is going to be a very good defender. I think Modest has potential to be a lot better and continue to block shots at a high rate while also being more productive on the perimeter. But the perimeter point of attack defense, I think, is going to be a real struggle. I think people are assuming Paul's going to do that. He's an okay defender. He's not a great defender, but he's also 33 years old. He's also an all-star, and you're going to ask him to chase around, Trey Young and then Steph Curry and then Jalen Brunson, and then you're not asking him to do that. And Giddey can't do it either because he's just much bigger. He plays better away from the ball. So you've got 3 guys that I think are effectively power forwards defensively in Caleb, Modest, and Giddey, where you've just got to figure out a way to survive that. But there's no one there that can really defend at the point of attack. Are you going to move Isaac Okoro or Trey Jones into the starting lineup so they can do that? Then who are you taking out? So I just don't think that starting group in particular has really good balance, especially on the defensive side. I think they're going to struggle to shoot the ball and space the floor. I think they'll play fast. I think they'll try to get to the rim. I think they'll try to draw fouls and offensive rebound and all those things to make up for it. But that's what everybody's doing now. And I think on top of that, you're running into the buzzsaw, which is this new lottery reform where you're not getting the Brooklyn Nets just packing it in, and the Utah Jazz and the Memphis Grizzlies and all these other teams that made the Bulls the 9th worst team in the league last year, not the 3rd worst team. And so that combined with, I think, the Bulls lost some of their better defenders from last year, and last year they weren't a great defensive team.
Correct.
I think that's going to be a real problem for them.
Daddy Fish in the chat pointing out that Giddey had ankle surgery. I doubt his lateral movement improved. Fair.
It's just not his role. He's not
also
a point guard defender.
Right.
It's not I think Giddey has been, a little bit overly or unfairly criticized for his defense. He's not a good defender, but if you are as good as some of these other offensive engines, you're not going to necessarily be expected to be. The problem is that he's also not as good as Luka Doncic or, some of these other real jumbo creator offensive engines. And so he's got to pick it up on one end or the other. And then on top of that, you have this lineup around him where you don't have a guard defender. And so where do you put him? Is Caleb going to be the one that's, chasing these guys over screens?
A lot to ask of a rookie.
I just don't think that's going to happen. So to me, it's less about like Giddey has a problem defensively, and it's more about how do you build a team around Giddey, understanding what his limitations are that can help make up for those. And I don't think the Bulls, I think offensively, it looks a little bit more like what you would want to see there in terms of the shooting with Norman Powell, in terms of the athleticism and the size and the rim protection with Caleb and Modest and Claxton, but at the point of attack specifically. And I think it's maybe hard to understate how important that is. Like if you are not stopping the ball at the point of the screen or just in isolation, you're giving up lanes to the rim, and now you're in rotation, and now Claxton's got to clean up all this mess for 38, 40 minutes a game. It's just nobody's capable of doing that. So I think as a group, that's going to be a real challenge. And again, it's not Giddey's problem. If they could have gone out and gotten Marcus Smart or Jalen Suggs or one of these really premier defensive Derek White type of guard defenders.
It's like
then
when they had
maybe
Lonzo Ball playing 4 defensive possessions by himself.
Or Caruso.
Or Caruso, when that formula worked very briefly, when the Bulls had a lot of other negative defensive players playing around him. Joey?
Isn't it also fair to, when you talk about a young team and you're talking about a new coaching staff, that when we talk about 40-plus wins, the only pushback that I would have would be like, okay, let's say like in the last 20 games of the season, maybe they start to reflect what this article is trying to talk about on the optimistic side, and they're playing well, but it's going to be all about safeguarding from getting off to a really rough start to start the year while all of it's trying to gel together. You're trying to build chemistry. Rookies have bumps up and down. And you guys did the schedule last week. Like, if you look at the first 15, 16 games,
dude,
like it's a gauntlet for a new developing team. So
they could easily start 5-15 or worse.
Yeah, so like I'm trying to get away from the number of wins that the Bulls are going to have, because this guy's making points that might be true in April, but I don't think they're going to show up in November.
And that's actually exactly where I wanted to go next, which is that I think the Bulls might end up being a worse team in terms of wins and losses than they have been the last couple of years, but it could still mean that they're on a much better path and that they have more optimism and hope for the future than they've had in the last decade. So those two things are not mutually exclusive.
100%. And this exercise from Greg Schwartz at Bleacher Nation is about evaluate, okay, what was this team's record last year? What were their biggest offseason changes, and predicting whether they will be better or worse than that 82-game record from last year. So that's what the exercise is, and he is predicting better. Sounds like you and I both disagree with that, but shout out to our guy Clem in the chat who said I love how Clem always says we when he's talking about the Bulls. We, as in the Bulls, will be worse win-loss-wise, record-wise, but it's for the better. And I think that's basically as simply as you can put it, and I 100% agree. I think that the Bulls will have fewer than 31 wins this upcoming season. I really do. Will I be happy about that? I don't care about wins and losses this upcoming season. In all honesty, I would like some more wins. Ideally, I would like to avoid that bottom 3, but as we've talked about the quality of the 27 draft class, maybe that's not such a bad thing with the can't pick top 5 3 times in a row rule that's in effect now. Mostly, I am happy that the direction has finally been changed, albeit way too late, and we have a fresh start of some kind with an influx of some young talent. That's what matters. Evaluating that young talent, and Bryson Graham and Tiago Splitter trying to pave a new path forward and figuring out which players, young, old, or somewhere in between, are going to be a part of that longer term is what's important. But when you think about what every team across the league is going to try to go out there and accomplish this season, Goat, on a nightly basis, because Adam Silver said we are fixing the tanking problem, and here's how we're doing it. And you don't have teams who are fighting like hell to be at the bottom of the standings, especially post-All-Star break, when the Bulls have stacked a bunch of meaningless wins over the last several years. You think about the East, as we were just talking about, with the Cavs and the Peyton Watson deal. And even, East teams you're going to play 3 or 4 times if they're in your division 4 times. But even across to the West, each team that you play twice. No one's losing on purpose this year. Nobody.
I think that's
how are you getting to 31 wins when your opponent on every night is not tanking?
I think that more than anything is their biggest impediment. It's just this is a different league now. It just is. And you're not facing teams that are geared to lose when you are trying and fighting like hell to just, scratch and claw for 30 some odd wins. Like that's going to become a real challenge now. And I think people are not ready for how that's going to reflect when it comes to teams' records.
Yeah. Shout out to Israel, who said Goat literally predicted that Peyton Watson trade on yesterday's show. That's right. He sure did. Also, Cap and Jeb, shout out to you in the chat saying, I know it's too early to talk about Halloween, but I just ordered the CHGO pizza t-shirt, so all I need now is a coif to complete my Goat costume.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean,
all right, let's go to ad break.
Great Halloween costume option. Highly recommend it.
Hate to tell you.
Send in a photo.
Hate to tell you.
Tweet a photo at us when you bring that to fruition.
That was a good one.
With that, we'll knock out our second ad break. We'll come back on the other side, continue to have this conversation, and joining us in that conversation, the one and only of No Dunks, starters, NBA podcasting legend, Trey Kerby. He joins us next. Hit the like button. BRB. CHGO Bulls is brought to you by Splash Sports. Football is so close, and that means you can win big money with the Splash Sports and All City $500,000 Survivor Contest. We all know how Survivor contests work. You pick straight-up winners each week of the football season and can't use the same team twice. Make the right picks throughout the season to avoid being eliminated. This contest has a guaranteed $500,000 payout. Let me say it again. Guaranteed, shout out Chuck, $500,000 payout. Sign up today so you're ready for week one. Just go to allchgo.com/survivor. $500,000 is up for grabs, so enter today at allchgo.com/survivor. allchgo.com/survivor. Sponsored by Splash Sports, paid partnership, skill-based contest, not sports betting. Open to U.S. residents 18 and over.
Football season's coming back. That's some good news. But I've got some even better news for you. What is it, you ask? New vehicles are in store at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And this is your chance to score a great deal during the Make This Summer event. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram models. And right now, get up to 25% off MSRP on new 2026 Ram 1500 models or 0% financing for 60 months on new models. Plus, shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. And since they prioritize affordability, you know you won't overpay for the vehicle you need because of Ray's price promise. You can shop confidently with no add-ons or hidden fees ever. The price you see is the price you pay. It's that simple. So go check out our partner today to shop one of Chicago's largest inventories, find the right vehicle for you, and then drive home happy because of the team at Ray CDJR. Don't miss out on the Make This Summer event for huge savings. For more information, visit Ray CDJR on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963.
CHGO Bulls rolls along on Thursday. Thanks for joining us, Bulls Nation. Hit the like if you didn't do it yet. Shout out to Believer who said I would hit the like twice if I could. Appreciate you, Believer. That's right, Clem. No Dunks. Formerly the starters for NBA TV. Trey Kerby is going to join us in a minute. Before we do that, though, just a quick reminder that it is Rank Week, a.k.a. the GOAT debate across the All City Network this week. MJ took home the GOAT of athletes of all time yesterday. We shouted him out for that because, of course, he is. Today's category was biggest villains in Chicago sports history. And in case you missed it, you can go find it on our socials, CHGO Sports Twitter account, our Instagram page. Aaron Rodgers besting Brett Favre, GOAT, as the biggest villain in Chicago sports, doubling Favre's votes, 727 votes to 353. And then you got three Bulls villains spanning generations at 3, 4, and 5. Oh. Isaiah at 3, LeBron at 4, and John Starks, the little bleep bag, as I always call him, coming into that, rounding on that top 5. What do you make of specifically those 3, 4, and 5 slots, Code?
Well, I was going to start with Rodgers. I feel like he's really leaned into it the most.
True.
So it makes sense. I feel like he would love to see that.
I bleep and own you.
Which makes me wish that I hadn't voted for him to be the number one
right?
villain.
Don't give him that satisfaction.
I don't want to give him the satisfaction. But, yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to a couple of things about the Bulls. Number one is that they haven't really had a rivalry in the last 15 years because they haven't really been competitive enough to earn one or deserve one. And then, Starks, Isaiah, LeBron, like that makes total sense to me.
For sure. Honorable mention, Bill Laimbeer was my number one.
Yeah.
I know that's an old school one, so generations and things
So
change,
for sure,
but
and I
Laimbeer
think
was high.
Laimbeer actually did finish in the top 5 of the CHGO staff voting.
Gotcha.
But to me, like, Isaiah was the evil mastermind who was truly evil. Laimbeer was just his henchman. So that's why my vote went to Isaiah over Laimbeer.
That's a good take.
He'd kiss
That's a good
you.
take.
He'd kiss you and then punch you in the throat.
There you go.
Laimbeer was just just swinging.
Yeah,
He was just swinging
exactly.
from the jump.
All right, I heard a
I
jingle,
know
Joey.
someone whose opinion I would actually like a lot more on this.
Right? Let's bring him in now. Joining us on the Xfinity Mobile call-in line, OG of NBA podcasting, formerly of the Starters on NBA TV, now co-hosting with some of his same friends, the No Dunks podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at Trey Kerby, the one and only, always repping the Bulls worldwide, wherever he is. Trey Kerby back on the program. What up, Trey? Good to talk to you, man.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm trying to be the villain of the No Dunks podcast. I don't know if the guys would vote me number one most villainous, but that's the energy I try to bring to things.
Beloved to be a villain, I think.
But I also think that there is an element to your character where you're just always trying to, you're always trying to stir up stuff.
I like to generate some engagement on the internet. There's no doubt about it. I'll say my opinions. That's what we're paid for, right? Say weird stuff and hopefully people react to it. If you're talking about modern day Bulls villains, number one for me, gotta be Grayson Allen.
Oof,
Grayson
that is
Allen.
a good one. Yeah.
What do you call him again? Is that allowed to say?
I call him Captain Dip Bleep. I've named him that. For as long as I've known him, John Starks has been that little bleep bag. So, these people earn these nicknames.
Exactly right. And I feel like Grayson Allen is very much in the same lineage as John Starks, where like they're going to annoy you. They might hurt your team. And unfortunately, sometimes they also might kill you with good basketball play. I'll never forget Grayson Allen lighting up the Bulls in the playoffs. One of the saddest moments of my life.
And then that game where he hacked Caruso, and it turned out he fractured his wrist. And then, Trey, you remember like the next morning, the Bucks Twitter account just like tweeted this little gif of Grayson Allen just like casually chomping on a donut. And as a Bulls fan, that's some of the most triggered I've ever been by a team's social media account.
Oh, yeah. No offense to Grayson Allen, but all offense to Grayson Allen. I hate this guy.
When he got traded to Phoenix, and we were talking to our colleagues over at PHNX Sports, and they were all trying to be excited. The Suns crew over there, like, hey, good player. We're like, you can't convince us that you are happy that this dude's on your team. So,
yeah, does he try hard on defense? Does he shoot 40% from three? Too bad, he's mean.
Exactly. Well, speaking of sharing opinions, Trey, I don't know if you heard, but we were talking before you joined us about that Bleacher Report, every 30 NBA teams, which will be better, which will be worse, that just dropped the other day. And Goat and I are of the opinion that while the Bulls might be in a better place now coming into this season as opposed to where they were coming into last season, reaching or eclipsing 31 wins this season when you look at their roster definitely sounds not like the most likely outcome. Where are you on the spectrum of how good or bad the Bulls could be this season?
I mean, I'm expecting the Bulls to be bad. You look at most of the sports books around, I think they're in the bottom 5 to 7 for their over-unders looking ahead. We're not going to get the fake 6-1 start, We're not going to get the first 2.5 months of the season where they're trying to convince themselves that maybe they can make a run at the play-in tournament, win some games. I do think perhaps that this year's Bulls team can be better than the post-trade deadline Bulls of last season. And at the very least, this season's Bulls, even if they're bad, they're going to be an entertaining bad, which is not a bad spot to be. If you're going to be bad, at least be fun to watch.
What is your general opinion about just the state of the Bulls? We haven't talked to you in a while. They go through, as you mentioned, a crazy trade deadline after a wild start to the season. They sell off finally. Then the Jaden Ivey stuff goes down. They finally move on from Arturas. They do a coaching search. They bring in a new GM. They get lucky in the lottery and bring in Caleb. It's been a whirlwind of a year. What's your state of the Bulls?
I'm still happy that they jumped to number 4 in the draft. That's really all that matters to me when it comes to the Bulls this season. They got Caleb Wilson, and then he came to Summer League, and I don't know if he was necessarily the absolute best rookie there, but he was the most exciting rookie there. So that was exciting for me. Going forward, it's all about Buzelis and Wilson. Seeing these two together, they're going to be fun to watch play. We're kind of at ground zero right now, it feels like, with the Bulls. You know, they're basically even on all their picks around. Nothing extra, but nothing lost. So that's a decent place to be. Some of the moves I haven't been crazy about during the summer, but it doesn't matter because they got the number 4 pick and they got Caleb Wilson. And that to me means a win this offseason.
It is, I think, by and large, the biggest of all the big headlines. You got lucky, you jumped up, you got Caleb Wilson. But I'm curious, Trey, rewinding from that a little bit, what you made of the beginning of this snowball starting to roll and grow, which was that April 6th press release saying that we are relieving Arturas and Mark of their responsibilities and their roles. And then you get the press conference where Michael Reinsdorf comes out there and begins by saying, I need to apologize to Bulls fans. Trey, as somebody like me who oftentimes with your opinions on your shows, on Twitter, says, hey, you want to know what's wrong with the Bulls? Keep looking up that ladder until you get to the tippy top. What, if anything, did that mean to you? And are you, at least for now, taking Michael at his word that he is sorry and he does want to get this right?
I've had my problems with Bulls ownership, as I'm sure we all have, right? But we all know that they want to win another championship somewhere down the line. You're going to have to prove it in the years coming by what you do financially. We know that the Bulls haven't always spent like a big market team, even though they are a gigantic market. Some of the times that they've actually tried to utilize the market advantages, it hasn't gone so well outside of basically 2/3 of a season. So I'll believe it when I see it is kind of where I'm at with the Reinsdorf crew. But trust me, when Bill Simmons is hinting about a potential Bulls sale further down the line as these franchise valuations go up and up and up, my ears perk up, right? You hear so many times ownership is a competitive advantage in the NBA. It definitely is, even if this new CBA is maybe kind of negating that a little bit. I think everybody knows that the Bulls can still win. They do still have a historic franchise in the NBA. They just need to start acting like it sometimes. Every time there's a new front office taken over, I feel optimistic. Talk to me in November when we've seen what the team actually looks like. But here on August 20th, a great day to be a Bulls fan.
You mentioned not being crazy about some of the moves, and I 100% agree with you that the number one, by far, most important thing that they did this summer, they got absolutely right, and it might be so good that nothing else matters. But I want to dig into the details of some of the other stuff. Was there a move that stood out to you, either good or bad? Maybe it's Claxton, maybe it's Norman Powell, maybe it's just like the general lack of, attempting to try to get in draft picks. As you think about what you would have liked to see them do this offseason, what is kind of your opinion about where they ended up?
Well, like I said, they're at the baseline right now. No extra picks, but no lost picks. And I think the smartest teams in the league, when they're going to be bad, they utilize their cap space to get assets for the future. And definitely the Bulls didn't do that this year. I was a fan of the Dalen Swain pick, keeping it, using it on that guy. Not impressive at Summer League, but he's still young enough. I'm not going to hold it against him. It only matters to me if the guy I like is good during Summer League. And the guy I liked was very good during Summer League. So, I would have liked them. They could have hopped in and tried to get Max Strus and maybe a second round pick, right? Some shooting would have helped more so than signing Norm Powell or something like that. Claxton has had his moments, but it's been a while since we've seen him be effective. They could have been a worse team if they wanted to this year. I don't know if there's quite as much incentive to do that with these new tanking rules that have been instituted, but it didn't seem like perfect asset management throughout the summer by Bryson Graham. But like I said, he did pick Caleb Wilson, so I can't be too mad. It just comes down to, will they be able to make the smart moves when it comes down to it? Things are playing into the Bulls' hands kind of right now. The goal is to be a bad team, but not the worst team. And I think making moves for a guy like Claxton, guys like Norm Powell, who was a one-time All-Star, who can fill it up, can shoot the ball, are going to make them good enough so that they're out of the relegation zone, but not quite so good that they lose a lottery pick.
Speaking of kind of somewhere in the middle of great and terrible, That's how I felt about the Tiago splitter hire, Trey. I'm curious how you feel about the splitter hire. Obviously, took over with some pretty challenging conditions out of the gate with Portland last year, taking over for Chauncey Billups, and then manages to get that injury-riddled, scrappy team to the playoffs via a 7-8 play-in tournament win, and then is ultimately the coach that Bryson lands on. Sean Sweeney was sort of like the darling name that was going around, and a lot of fan bases were hoping for, including Bulls fans. He goes elsewhere. They conduct their interviews. Tiago's the guy. What are your impressions of what he accomplished with Portland last year, and how do you think he'll face different challenges with the Bulls this season?
I think there's going to be way different challenges with the Bulls this season. I was pretty impressed by the way Splitter was able to hop in after one game and just continue building with the Blazers. They had a decent season in 24-25. They had a good second half of the season, made a run at the play-in tournament, didn't play out. Billups is gone. Splitter steps in. They keep getting better. Some of the young players keep getting better, and they definitely had an identity. But that's where things kind of go a little sideways for me. When I think of the Blazers' identity last season, it was picking up full court defensively. It was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of physicality. They were a team that won with their defense and doing just enough on offense. You look at the personnel the Bulls have, almost the exact opposite. This is a team that I think wants to outscore people. Maybe you can look into Tiago Splitter's background. He played on those beautiful game Spurs in like the 2010s with a lot of ball movement, everybody involved. I think if he's able to bring some of that sort of style to the Bulls, that would be very helpful. But I do think it's hard to know what to expect from Splitter. He had one season. They were a defensive focused team, and that's not going to be the case, I don't think, in Chicago. If he's able to improve the defense with the personnel they have, I think that would be great. I just think it's going to be a heavy lift for him.
What do you think needs to happen for them to maybe succeed is not the right word, but for them to just be passable defensively? Because I think that is, we were talking about this earlier, there's just not a lot of perimeter defense. I think the rim protection's gotten a little bit better, but what do you think needs to happen for them to just be a little bit better, if not just passable on defense, to help them kind of make the best of this season, which I do think is going to be a bit of a challenge?
There was a time when Nick Claxton was talked about as an all-defense type of player, maybe even could end up on a Defensive Player of the Year ballot, but then everybody's like, okay, so he wasn't given his full effort for the Nets after KD and Harden and Kyrie left. I look at the Bulls, and I don't think they're necessarily more talented than those Nets team. I don't know that Claxton is going to be super motivated, but he's in a new location. Him having a bit of a bounce back to his career would be huge for the Bulls. But I think defensively, the way they're going to make hay at all is going to be forcing turnovers to kind of ignite the fast break. They got all these young, athletic, quick dudes that want to run the court. The more they can turn defense to offense, the better chance they have of not getting run out of the gym.
Complete this sentence, Trey. I want to see Patrick Williams blank this upcoming season.
I want to see Patrick Williams on another team this season. Is it going to happen? I doubt it.
That's the answer I thought you were going to have. I was just curious if you might just take a curveball on that
Could have
one.
gone in so many directions.
Set him up and roll him
It
down.
takes two teams to make a trade, right?
It takes two teams to make a trade, and the Bulls aren't in a position to pay to get off a contract. So I don't know. I would like to see Patrick Williams not on lists for the 10 worst contracts in the NBA. How about that? Be an effective bench player for this team.
The less bad it will be, I think, is the best case scenario. What about Modest? Because you mentioned him as being, him and Caleb, the core guys. What do you hope to see from him this year? What do you expect to see from him this year?
It feels to me like he's taking a bit of a leadership role for the Bulls. He's front and center in all their marketing. They put him at the top of the Sears Tower in their schedule release video, right? Like he's going to be a big part of the Bulls going forward from a marketing standpoint, but also from like a team standpoint. I think last year he didn't take a huge step forward, but something that's important is that he also didn't take a step back. He got a lot more opportunity. We see a lot of second-year wings really struggle when they start to show up on the scouting report a little bit more. And I don't think that was the case for Modest. They asked him to do more, and he was able to at least maintain his level. This year, you'd like to see him be a little bit stronger, be a little bit of a half-court, a little bit better of a half-court player, maybe initiate the offense. some more. I think he's a great defensive playmaker. I think he can definitely get better as like an irritant on that end of the court. But I just want to see him look like a perfect pairing alongside Caleb Williams or alongside Caleb Wilson. It's not going to be a winning team at this point, considering the youth between their two best players. But I do want to see some sort of synergy between these guys to figure out if they can be like a new age forward pairing together.
And then you talk about the guy who's supposedly going to be teeing them up often as rim runners, as guys running the floor or getting out in transition, and that's Josh Giddey. Trey, when we talked to you last year, sounded like you were kind of in line with myself in that you are a Bulls fan who had their doubts about how great Josh Giddey could be in making a team around him a good, nightly, competitive NBA team. Did anything you saw from Giddey last season change the way you felt about Josh Giddey and the ceiling of a team that's built with him as one of its integral pieces?
It's too bad he got hurt in the middle of last season, because I think the beginning of the year was really impressive. The way he was aggressive getting to the hoop. The three-pointer seems to have at least stabilized. I don't necessarily know that he's a threatening shooter, but an adequate enough shooter that he can still be effective on the offensive end. The thing that really stuck out to me last season, especially in the first part of the year, his floater got a lot better. And that's just another thing to have in his bag when teams are going to be playing off him. There's going to be shots for him there. I think the Bulls are doing a good job of building a team around him that kind of accentuates his strength. He wants to distribute the ball. He wants to get it out to these guys that are running. I love that Giddey isn't a guy that holds on to the ball for a long time. There are a lot of players who need touches on the Bulls to be effective. So I was impressed with Giddey's first half of the season last year. To me, he proved that he was worth the contract he signed. Only 22-ish% of the cap. Not too bad, right? Like, he looked a lot like the player that we saw during the second half of the season in 24-25 when he was putting up triple doubles regularly. He looks like a guy that at the very least can lead an entertaining team, can stuff the stat sheet, and maybe if they're able to grow together as a bunch of young guys, they can figure out a way to be effective offensively.
For me, I think one of the big challenges that they're going to face this year is just this new competitive landscape where teams are not tanking. They're trying every night. What was your take on just the new lottery reform and kind of what that means for the league?
Well, my real take on the lottery reform was a few years too late. How many times did the Bulls end up 7th in the league? That's the spot you want to be right now. They would have had so many number one draft picks if this had happened a few years later. But you're right. I do think it's going to mess with win totals this season. I think the worst teams in the league are going to win more than 20 games, which hasn't been the case. Like, we're talking about 14 to 17 wins the past 3 seasons at the bottom of the league. I think those bottom dwellers are more like 20 wins, which means it'll be competitive. There will still be some chicanery, I imagine, during the second halves of these seasons. And it's going to be really, really strange when we get into the second half of March, the beginning of April, and you got a game between the Bulls and the Bucks. And it's like, who actually wants to lose this game harder? Who wants to win this game? I don't know how they're going to do that. Maybe it makes for a more competitive season, but for me, the tanking stuff really will apply for some of the best teams in the league. It might be harder to win 65 plus games. It might be harder to win 60 games if teams like the Bulls and the Bucks and the Nets are giving it their all throughout the season.
Trey, I'm curious. You mentioned Summer League and, of course, the dazzling stuff we saw from Caleb, the underwhelming performance from Dalen Swain, but it sounds like you are not out on him just because of a bad handful of Summer League games. The other, I think, big story of Summer League is that Tiago Splitter does not seem to be a huge Noah Asenge fan. I'm curious where you are on Noah right now as we're talking about this young rebuilding Bulls team that has young talent on it, but not a bevy of additional first-round draft picks to add to it in the coming years. If Noah is not a part of that equation, that's kind of a tough hit.
Yeah, that would be a huge hit for the Bulls. And I mean, Splitter is part of a new regime. Obviously, Graham is a new regime. There's nothing necessarily from the top coming and saying, we got to see exactly what we got in Asenge. I still have a little bit of hope that he can turn into a player. You know, I keep thinking back to his draft night. They showed his highlight tape, and it was 100% dunks. I don't think he took a single jumper in this, gets to the NBA, isn't able to stay on the court, gets hurt right away. So bad for the development. He was having problems shooting after his recovery from shoulder surgery. So I don't know. I think there's still opportunity on the Bulls. I don't necessarily think of him as the French Giannis as I did when he was first drafted. I don't know. Luckily, he's still growing, so he's at least on that part of the Giannis path. We'll see if the rest transpires, but he's at least got something athletically. They need to see what and if anything he can do on an NBA court.
Are you surprised that they went after Norman Powell? I feel like just being an all-star and being in the situation that they're in, I was like, when those rumors started first coming out, I was kind of writing them off. There just did not seem to be any way where the Bulls would be going after him. Maybe it's part of the new lottery system. Maybe it's that they wanted to bring in talent, but just your reaction to seeing the Bulls getting an all-star.
Well, when you put it that way, it sounds pretty good. There weren't a lot of all-stars that switched teams this offseason, and the Bulls got one of them. But to me, it did feel a little bit like an older Bulls move. An AK move. We're trying to chase the play-in tournament, but like you're saying, maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe they're not trying to be the worst team in the league. You don't want to be the absolute worst. I don't think the Bulls are, and 100%, they needed shooting with the rest of the players they're going to have in the starting lineup. Giddey, Buzelis, Wilson, and Claxton. That's basically 4 non-shooters, even though apparently Wilson understands it now, training with lethal shooter. He looked great during the summer league. We'll see. They needed somebody to chuck. Norm Powell can chuck. I was kind of surprised he would go to the Bulls. You know, he'd been playing in a competitive situation basically his entire career. This could be some of the worst teams he's played on. But I think he can be helpful, but not too helpful, which is the key.
Simple question. Who's the Bulls' points per game leading scorer this season? And if it's not Norman Powell, who is it?
Wow, that's tough. I guess I would probably guess Powell. He'll lead the team in three-point shooting, which kind of puts him ahead. It wouldn't surprise me if he leads in shot attempts. Other than that, I guess Giddey, maybe? I think it's tough. I would like to see Buzelis or Wilson be at the worst, the second leading scorer for the Bulls this season, but they're still young. I don't know exactly how much one-on-one self-creation game they're going to have. I think that suits Powell. I think that suits Giddey a little bit more at this stage in their career, but hopefully by year 3 of Caleb Wilson, we're talking about him as the leading scorer, followed by Buzelis, followed by whoever they draft number 1 next year.
Any other under-the-radar candidates from the Bulls that you're excited to watch this year? I feel like after the trade deadline, we would turn on games and just not even remember who was on the roster. But there were a couple of guys.
I was getting hyped for Leonard Miller minutes in early
had
March.
Some nice moments. Anybody like that you're interested to see? Maybe it's Jalen Sellers, the 2A?
I'm a Jalen Smith fan still. I was happy with the Bulls signing him and then him actually like kind of living up to his contract. I saw him walking in an airport in Chicago in like one of the few seconds I was actually back in Illinois. So that was positive to me. I'm a Trey Jones fan. I'm telling everybody now, he's the new Tyus Jones. He's better than you think. He's better than his brother at this season. And then you're right, Leonard Miller. Look, I work with all Canadians right now, so these guys are telling me, oh, Leonard Miller, he's the future. I'm like, he is the exact same player and position as all of the other Bulls draft picks from the past few years, but at least he's fun to watch. And he was productive last season, not to mention the lineage in Chicago, going from Emmanuel Miller to Leonard Miller. We're racking them up, baby.
So many Millers. Trey, before we let you go, first of all, thank you so much for joining us again. Always a pleasure. Plug your pluggables. Tell Bulls Nation where they can catch your stuff as we move into a fresh season.
Yeah, you can find all of our podcasting. No Dunks is the name of the show. It's on every podcast platform there is. We're on YouTube as well. As you guys know, not a lot going on in the NBA season right now, so we're doing basically one NBA show per week, followed by a recap of every movie from the Pirates of the Caribbean series. I believe number 2, Dead Man's Chest, drops tomorrow. We're talking about Tentacle Beard Davy Jones.
Yes, let's go.
We should do that.
Speaking
What are we
which,
doing here?
The Trey Kerby beard, immaculate as always, my friend. Thank you for showing up, looking clean cut. Never doubted you would for a second. Great to talk to you, Trey. Be well, buddy. Hopefully we'll talk to you sometime once we get the season underway.
Great talking, guys. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls. The one and only Trey Kerby. Follow him at Trey Kerby. Always nice when he joins the program.
Love talking to him.
That is going to about do it for today. We are off tomorrow. No Friday show because we will come back to the studio Saturday afternoon for a live show after we are at the UC down the street, soaking up those Bulls Fest vibes. So if you are planning on heading to Bulls Fest on Saturday, hit us up, tweet at us, shoot us a DM. If you got our number, text us, let us know. Hope to see as many of you there as possible. And then we are going to come back here, recap the fun we had at Bulls Fest with a Saturday episode to round out the week. In the meantime, shout out to our king of the trolls, the one and only Joey C. Go Cubs, go. Read Goat Stuff, allchgo.com. Follow him, Will_Gottlieb. Meh. I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. And the next time you see us doing a show on Saturday, the big man returns. Can't wait. Have a great Thursday night. Have a great Friday. We'll talk to you Saturday. See Red, be good.
We all silly like the mayor.